One of the biggest problems I hear from my audience is losing traction and sliding out when on a flat or slippery corner. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to ride with confidence using positive riding habits to build your confidence faster while staying safe. The first step is forming a positive braking habit. Now, when coming up to a corner or just when you need to slow down, a really common mistake is being too aggressive and stabbing at the brakes, whether it's using the front or the rear. I'll give an example of both. So when you're coming up to a flat corner and you know you need to slow down, a lot of people, they end up stabbing at the front brake. Maybe you're using all four fingers, but when you quickly slam on the brakes to try and slow down quickly, which is important, this is putting too much load on the brakes and the tires, and you don't have enough traction to be able to slow the wheel down properly without sliding out. But why does that happen? Well, when the weight is balanced on the front and rear tires, they can only take so much acceleration or deceleration. So you have to have more weight shifted onto a tire to be able to stop or accelerate faster. And when you stab at the brake, there's not enough weight shifted onto the tire to give it that extra traction needed to slow it down without sliding out or washing out the tire. So maybe if you're afraid to use the front brake, maybe this causes you to use the rear brake more. And when you're riding with dirt bike boots, which you should be, they're really stiff, and if you're not used to that stiff boot, it's hard to feel how much rear brake you're using with the rear brake pedal. So it's really easy to push down too much on it, especially if it's not adjusted properly, the brake pedal. It's easy to push down too hard and lock up the rear wheel. And when you don't have a good feel for your bike, it's hard to tell when that rear wheel is locking up, and it starts to go sideways and you don't know it until it's too late, and you either wash out or you let go of the rear brake and it hooks back up, and then it throws you the other way, giving you that nasty high side crash. So how do you form a positive braking habit? Well, you find a corner that you're struggling with or just a section that's slippery, and you practice being smooth. So you start out slow applying the brakes and just repeat this process progressively. Give it more and more brake until you feel comfortable stopping faster. Step number 2 when going around a flat or slippery corner is getting traction by properly shifting your body. Now, another big mistake is just being relaxed and neutral on the bike when coming up to or going around a corner. Now, it is really important to be relaxed generally when you're riding, but what I mean by being in a relaxed position is just sitting in one spot. It's often too far back on the seat, especially if you're used to riding a street bike or a mountain bike. You kind of just sit in one spot and you kind of just lean with the bike. But when you're going around a slippery or flat corner, you need to have more weight on the front tire to give you that extra traction, because on the dirt, where traction is limited, you're a lot more likely to slide out. So in order to get more traction while going around these slippery corners, you need to practice shifting your weight so that there's more weight over or above the tires. And the next step is the exit of the corner, or when you're accelerating. And the third big mistake is being too aggressive with the throttle. I see guys, it's usually guys, because they like to express their manliness a little bit more, is when coming out of a corner and they have a loud bike especially, they like to hold the throttle open. But what this does is it breaks the rear tire loose, and not only do you have less control, but you're riding slower because you don't get that traction. Now, I know, like I said before, you don't have 100% traction riding in the dirt, but when you're too aggressive with the throttle, giving it too much too soon, it's just going to break loose, and you're not accelerating forward because your rear wheel is accelerating to the side. You're not moving forward. You're sliding out, you're losing speed, or you're not gaining speed, and you're losing control of the bike, and you can actually slide out, wash out, or even high side, which is done when you give it gas, the rear wheel slides out, then you let off because like, oh, I gave it too much gas, and then it hooks back up and whips back, and sometimes whips back too far, kind of like using too much rear brake, and then you get that nasty high side crash. So in order to quickly build your confidence with a positive throttle habit is, again, practicing being smooth, rolling on the throttle, finding a corner that is slippery or tricky, and just working on that weakness of yours. And when you go at it over and over again, this is what builds that muscle memory. Paul Scrivener, a student of mine from New Zealand, rode back in his teens and 20s, but never really became a great trail rider. And now in his 50s, he just wanted to be able to do intermediate grade trails, and he was struggling with his cornering. And after coming to me and practicing what he learned, he said that it made an instant difference in my cornering. It's just a matter of reading what you got, looking at your video clips, and going back out to the field and practicing, and then putting it to use on the trails. Now you may see that I have a watch here, and I never liked wearing watches, but I got one for health reasons a couple of years ago. And when I first got it, it was kind of hard to put on. It took me a minute because I'm like, how do you do this with one hand here? But after repeatedly doing it day after day, taking it on and off, it eventually became like second nature to me, because I built that muscle memory of doing it with one hand, and now I don't even really have to think about it when I put it on. And the same goes for dirt biking. When you focus intentionally on learning a positive riding habit, you can learn a skill or a technique much quicker than if you were just to go out and ride and not really practice anything with positive intention. When you intentionally practice positive riding habits, so that when you actually go out on the trail, you'll actually feel more confident, because these new habits will feel natural to you without even thinking about them. Now, there are three main ways to quickly build your confidence by forming positive riding habits, and I go through all of them in depth through my virtual dirt biker school. But I'm giving you one of my favorites here right now, so that you can quickly build your confidence on flat or slippery corners in a matter of days, so that you aren't washing out your wheels and you're able to ride faster to maybe keep up with your family or friends. And if you want to learn the other positive riding habits, I encourage you to download my free guide. You can get that at motocrosshideout.com/free lessons, or click the link in the description below. This is Kelly Fager from Motocross Hideout. Learn more, ride more, so that you can stay safe and have fun for many years to come.